Hello, I'm Andy Walker with Digital Farm TV Rural News. International food processor McCain has announced it is moving away from collective potato purchase agreements with Ballarat region farmers to instead deal with its suppliers on an individual basis. A spokesperson for McCain Foods said there was no major change to how the company did business. The move was a business decision, which would mean a reduction in the number of growers able to supply spuds to the processor. Outraged producers said last week's dumping of European potatoes on the Australian market was behind McCain's move, and its decision to cut supply and collective agreements had massive ramifications. Presently, frozen potato products were being imported from countries such as Belgium, where farmers received a 23% subsidy from the EU. One Ballarat district producer asked, "How are we expected to compete on a level playing field with subsidised imports coming into Australia?" The Federal Agriculture Department, DAFF, has announced a new national policy for vaccination against foot and mouth disease to boost Australia's preparedness for a possible outbreak. Departmental Deputy Secretary Rona Mallor said vaccination was increasingly recognised as a very important tool in early FMD control. While Australia had been free of foot and mouth disease for more than a century, it was still by far the most significant biosecurity threat to our livestock industries, she said. Rather than considering vaccination a measure of last resort, Australia would now consider the potential of vaccination as soon as an incursion of FMD was detected. Experience overseas and disease modelling studies in Australia both showed that in some circumstances, early vaccination was essential for effective disease control. The international milk glut could mean shaky times ahead for Australian dairy producers. The price of milk is predicted to drop by a further 4 cents a litre, and Dairy Australia has said Australia's overall production was going to increase this year. While demand for the Australian drop was still strong, it was not strong enough to absorb the international surplus and counter the brutish Australian dollar. Processors were the collateral damage in the supermarket price wars, and people would be dreaming if they thought Aussie producers won't also end up being collateral damage, one dairyman said. Producers from the Japanese city of Owaki have run a rice growing trial in the Burdekin in far north Queensland as part of efforts to find an alternative farming location. Regional Agribusiness Development Manager Gareth Jones said last week that until now, few observers believed the Kochi rice variety could be grown outside Japan. He said he thought the successful trial had silenced not just sceptics in Japan, but also in Australia. When the development team saw the first paddy draining water, a lot of them were doubtful about the Burdekin Delta soil, he said. With the first crop now seeding, critics have remained quiet. Free-range eggs may be popular with some Australian consumers, but an Australian animal welfare researcher doesn't see cage egg production disappearing for a long time, if at all. The South Australian Research and Development Institute's Dr. Phil Glatz said that given poverty concerns in many nations, cage systems may well flourish because they provide a high-protein source in a healthy food production environment. Modern cage production systems delivered a lot of eggs and were probably far superior to the free-range options. The eggs were cleaner, the birds healthier, and housing conditions could be managed with optimum efficiency. And biosecurity news from overseas. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency, having now quarantined 3 Atlantic salmon farms in the province of British Columbia over fears about the presence of the deadly IHN virus. The first quarantine occurred 2 weeks ago at a farm which was forced to destroy more than 560,000 juvenile fish. The Necrosis virus can kill young fish raised in freshwater hatcheries, juveniles recently introduced to the sea, and older fish in seawater. Authorities have said that IHN did not pose a risk to human health and was also found in wild fish in the Pacific Ocean.